This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This table is really tilted.
Excuse me? Am I gonna get a chance to speak?
Maybe I should take that back.
Denied. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Take a giant step for mankind.
Welcome to the Tilted Table with your hosts, Sean and Joe.
Folks, welcome to another episode of The Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I am Sean Kabibi.
And I am Joey Joe, the Fracky Mac.
And we want to welcome you to another Freestyle Wednesday.
Except it's Thursday.
Is it Thursday?
It's Thursday.
Yeah, something like that.
All freestyle all the time.
It's all freestyle all the time. I honestly didn't know what to say right there, so I just defaulted back to what I usually say. I'm a little bit tired today. I think what I was supposed to say is catch us on all social media platforms at the Tilted Table 1.
Like, subscribe, ring the bell, send us messages.
Yeah, do all that stuff.
Yeah. I want to do a big shout out to our listener Kevin up in northern Central California. I got some good feedback from Kevin, so we appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Kevin. Mm-hmm. What was the feedback?
He liked what we were doing. He said It was fun. It was entertaining. He said it's his favorite show about nothing. I'm like, we're like the Seinfeld of radio.
Right, we are the Seinfeld of radio. We are definitely the show about nothing.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things you and I were talking about earlier is creativity and trying to stay on track with our lives and live a full life of purpose and intention and not slip slide into just the YouTube rabbit hole. So how you want to share with your legions of intergalactic fans how you always be so positive, motivational, spreading the joy of the Kabibi-san.
Well, it's funny because a friend of mine had said something the other day about how overtly positive I was. You're always real positive. You're always about go out there, let's do it, blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, am I really? I guess I am. How do you stay positive? How can you not? I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, you're gonna be just mope around all the time. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this: is that like I think that life is difficult. Sometimes it's a big grind. Sometimes you get into ruts and all that kind of stuff, and you can get sucked into that. Mm-hmm. And then what? Really, it's like you're here for so many days, years. Either you're going to enjoy it or you're not. I can't imagine waking up every day and just having to sit there and just wallow.
Exist.
Yeah, just wallow in all the bullshit. Kind of rise above it. But I also think that how do you do that? Like, what's the method to not dwell on everything or get caught in that rut and just hate it and just, hate everything about what you're doing is, now how do you get past that? I hate to use that mindset shit because I don't really buy into it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people do.
What are you referring to?
The guru mindset, like, if you think it, you manifest it.
Oh, yeah, I don't subscribe to that.
Right, yeah, the idea that, like, well, if you think positive things are going to happen. If you think negative things are going to happen. But it's more than that. To me, it's a lot of just, kind of new age guru bullshit. But there's some reality that is, I think, true. I think that's why it makes that stuff so powerful and so sellable, is that at its root, it's very true. If you're negative all the time or you're just dwelling on everything as a negative, you see the glass is half empty constantly, then everything is going to be miserable, mm-hmm. right? So the flip side of that is like, well, try to, ignore the negative and focus on the positive, or even the negative, turn it into a positive. Like a good example is I think most Americans probably don't want to get up at 5 a.m. and have to go to their job. And that's a big grind. And it's like, well, think about it positively, right? Like, don't think about it in a negative way. Go out there, do it, try to have as much fun as you can, and as much fun as you possibly can, depending on your job. I think that's important. But the other thing I think that people should think about is, and this has helped me a lot, when you start to realize, this gets very almost, existentialistic or maybe even nihilistic. If you start to think about how none of this fucking matters, like really, in all honesty, whatever you're going through will likely pass. the daily bullshit doesn't mean anything in 5 years. You probably won't even remember. I mean, if you think about the crap that you went through when you were in your 20s, stuff that at that time, was your entire existence happening. Like, this is the worst thing that's happening, and you can let it consume you. And then, 10 years down the line, you're thinking like, oh yeah, I remember that. It just doesn't matter. And I know I'm being very simplistic because some people have some real problems. There's things that you can't ignore. We're talking about all kinds of disease or catastrophes, and financial woes and all these types of things. I get that. But this is really specifically targeted towards the people who aren't in those kinds of situations, and I think that that's one way to look at things, and just enjoy the ride. Again, you're here whether you want to be or not. So it's either going to be a miserable ride or it's going to be at least somewhat of a fun ride. And I understand that I'm probably coming off as at least partially ignorant when I say these kinds of things, because people will say, well, that's easy for you to say, or you just can't just say, stop being so mopey about everything. And, I don't have, I understand that sounds ignorant, but it does work. It does take time though, because I would say that probably at least, there were times in my life where I was coming off probably really negative about everything. And that's because things at certain points in my life weren't necessarily going as well as I would have liked them to go. And, and I sort of switched it around. And I did find that one thing did change. And again, this idea is like, it's almost like a fake it till you make it. Even if you are absolutely miserable and things aren't going well, just ignoring that and acting like, oh man, things are great. Kind of put that out there. And it's kind of phony. But I guarantee when you act like that, people who are positive and good influences will come around. And those people can actually help you. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think it's a big growth thing because years ago I had the same type of nihilism, like we're just bags of space dust drifting through nothingness, and headed into headed into the eternal blackness. And my mindset's changed an awful lot. One of the things that I saw this one quote and I was like, oh, this is actually really, really good. Beauty without depth is just decoration. Yeah. So one of the things it started about 2 years ago, I had a friend that tried to commit suicide, and part of the deal was he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. I mean, he had 2 math and physics degrees by the time he was 19. He's in his mid-30s now, but never married, no kids, no relationships. He's got some mental health issues that I try and help out with. And when in his and my conversations, one of the things that drove him to that point is being alone. And I thought, after he and I had talked for a couple hours after that night, as a lot of guys get older, and I don't, I'll get your feedback here in a second, but your friend circle gets smaller and smaller, and your willingness to share some deep personal things also dwindles, and people, at least from my personal experience, just start to internalize things, and you don't have a lot of like guy friends that you can lean on and have some pretty deep and profound conversations. So one of the things I started doing 2 years ago is every morning, I've been collecting artwork on my phone since 2008. So my phone says I have, and I'm not the picture guy. So to give this number a little bit of context, is these are just images. It's not, Joe's out like taking pictures of trees. Here's 10 pictures to add up to my total. I've got over 23,000 images on my phone, and a lot of, I'd say the predominant part of it, it's all artwork. And so I started taking this artwork and coming up with like something inspirational, something directional, and then sending that to my friend. And then and the reason I wanted to do it is to like quote keep the lights on. Yeah. Right. Like in his desperation, his phone was always dark. Nobody's calling, nobody's texting, and it's just days turn into months, turns into years, and then you get older and the phone's still dark. So I wanted to keep that phone lit. And then I started thinking about being, providing that type of good feedback to other people. And I get up at, between 4:50 and 5 in the morning. And so it's literally the very first thing. And I've done it. I have not missed in 2 years. Every morning I do it. I curate what my content is going to be the night before. I want each of those. So I have 47 people I now do this for
Mm-hmm.
every morning at 5:00. That, when they wake up and they roll over and turn off their alarm, there's something cool and inspirational and intentional
Mm-hmm.
to start their day. So I'm like helping, bring some positivity into a crazy, mixed up, toxic world. I figured, it's the other saying, a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle.
Yeah.
And to help, be that light. You don't have to be like the most profound person, but at least provide good material and, keep that light on.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think that one of the advantages to a positive attitude, like I said, whether you actually feel positive or not, and if you're even to the point where you're faking it, is that when you're positive, you're going to bring more positive energy and more positive people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you think about somebody who might be sitting home alone, no one wants to text them or talk to them, it's probably at least partly to do with who they are. Nobody wants to be around somebody that's, pissing and moaning constantly, or their life's a complete wreck or whatever. And they're in that mindset. So, the idea that positive vibes will definitely give you positive energy back, and you'll start to meet people, and those people can inspire you. And those are the people that will talk to you, and you probably make those friendships, because your friendship, your friend circle, you're right, it does shrink, but it doesn't have to. I think adults typically aren't as good at going out and meeting new people as younger people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all relationships require work, right? Active work, not just showing up and like being in a room with people milling around. It requires active work. It requires, quote, watering the relationship.
Yeah.
So to some of those, friends that do suffer through some pretty severe mental health issues, you're 100% right. But I think it's also, for many people, you do something over and over and over again, and it's not going to work the first time, right? It's that whole creative thing. It's not going to work the first time, and to be okay with failure. But for a lot of people, being told no once, twice, 10 times, I guess isn't a problem. When you get told no, say 20, 30 times, you just stop doing it. And that can sit down deep and just kind of fester.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not talking about, like, there are people out there with, actual diagnoses of mental, health issues.
For sure. Yeah. We'll throw that out there.
And again, like I said earlier, I might be coming off as kind of ignorant. Like, it's not everybody can just do that. But I'm really speaking to the people that can, because I've met a lot of people that, their lives aren't fantastic. They're not the richest person in the world. They're not the most successful person in the world. They may not even be particularly the most engaging person in the world. But, those types of people, if, instead of moping around or dwelling on all the negative, dwelling into the positives.
Mm-hmm.
And the positive starts with you. And like I said, even if to the point where you had to fake it, and I've done this. I've been in spots where I'm, depressed, I'm not feeling good. And then, I go to school, and immediately I turn it on like fire, and immediately you get that reaction back from, the kids. And it's the same anywhere you go. And like I said, the more positive people you meet, the more positivity will be put onto you. And then you start to feel that positivity.
Do you ever scrub your aura?
I don't even know what that is. It sounds like something you should be doing by yourself in the bathroom. And I'm not going to.
I figured if anybody was going to throw in like a chakra reference or something, it was going to be you.
And if I did that anywhere where I work, I'd be on the news. I'm not trying to be on the news.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I think the punchline of what you and I are also talking about is, of course, we are not trained psychological professionals, but it
clearly we're the fountain of misinformation, if anything.
But I mean, the main thing is just showing up, being present, being available, wanting to help. I think those are all like the basic fundamentals. And most people, I'm not throwing rocks, but I think most people completely miss it because life gets in the way. People are selfish.
Yeah.
Right. You don't think about others. You think about, what am I having for lunch? What am I having for dinner? What am I drinking tonight? Right. You're not thinking about like, I haven't talked to so-and-so in forever.
Yeah. Well, life can, keep you so busy that I think sometimes people think like, well, I'll call that person tomorrow. And tomorrow turns into a week, turns into a month, turns into, 2 months, 3 months. And it just, things keep, going. But I think also you got to keep in mind that the more friends that you make, the more people you connect with, the harder it gets. Because for me, for example, like I know so many people, and I text people all the time, and I'll talk to people on the phone or whatever. But the face to face is the hardest thing to do, because if I said like, well, I haven't had dinner with Joe, or I haven't seen Joe, let's go out and have dinner, right, or something like that. Yeah, we go out on Monday night. Now I've just absolutely exhausted my Monday night, but there's 15 other people I should probably see. I can't go out to dinner every night, so you have to sit there, and it gets kind of hard to manage. So yeah, as your friend circle expands, it gets harder and harder. So I can see that happening, but for me, I've always taken friendships to be like, pause in a friendship is not about time. And I've reconnected with people I haven't spoke with in maybe 3 or 4 years, and it's like we haven't, not talked to each other for 3 or 4 years. I have a perfect example of a friend of mine. I haven't seen her in 15 years. She contacted me the other day, immediately, boom, just like
back in the saddle.
Yeah, just like right back in the saddle. And I think partly that's I'm a very open personality, and I haven't always been that way. I've always
really.
You could ask my friend Josh Wolf. I mean, he's known me since high school, and we've been in bands for years together and whatnot. He'll tell you, he's like, oh yeah, he's definitely the kind of guy that was like, I got 2 good friends and I don't need any more, so all of you get away from me, like kind of attitude. and yeah, it doesn't really serve you in the long run. And so I definitely had at one point to sort of adjust my attitude. I did have a no new friends policy for probably longer than I should have. But at one point, you start to become a little bit isolated. And I decided, like, I don't really want to live like that. And I don't think it's, again, if you're by yourself too much or you're in that space too much, it starts to become your personality.
Right.
And I'm glad that I had, turned around and said, you know what, I'm going to go out and go meet some new people. And I would say out of all my friends, let's say I got 15, I can give you a raw number of people that I'm really close with. Those are all people I probably met in the last, say, 10, 15 years.
Got it.
Yeah, and it's been absolutely positive.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Leave a like on the video. I know you're enjoying this. Can you shut up?
The internet's answer to a question that was never asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
I got a quick story to share. So my life changed forever in the year 2018. I had a really good friend. Her name was Jolene, and super rad. I mean, see, Jolene was a little bit older than me. Whenever she'd come to town, she'd always come over to the house for dinner. She lived up in Napa. Whenever we'd be up there traveling, we'd always make sure that we stopped in and had dinner with her. And she was the freaking coolest. So she, for a number of years, she was one of the directors or whatever for Burning Man. In her so she was never married, never had any kids. It would be like, say, a Tuesday night, she would see on her phone, like, and I'm totally just make this is actually a real story. Marilyn Manson's performing in San Francisco in an hour and a half, and it would be, again, a Tuesday night. She lives 2 hours away. She would drop everything that she was doing. She'd be up all night long doing crazy stuff, and she'd roll into work the next morning, no sleep, sunglasses on, and just kill it at work. And she was just an amazing, huge personality and rock star. We were talking, it was a Tuesday, and I'd always like look at my clock and kind of bookmark mentally like 45 minutes because we just have some amazing conversations. And I remember at the end of this visit, I had my feet up on my desk, and I was like, hey, I know you're really busy, let's catch up tomorrow, and there's another couple stories that I want to share with you. And she's like, yeah, you got it, man. Well, that next day totally got away from me, and I got an email at, it was like 3:50 in the afternoon. It's like seared into my brain that she had died that morning.
Oh shit.
45 years old. She had a brain aneurysm.
Is that from being a rock star?
I don't think so. I think it was just, she did live that kind of lifestyle, but I honestly don't think it was related to that. But it was such an absolute tragedy that, Jolene was 45 when she died. And I talked to her boyfriend at the memorial service, and so I had 2 quick bullet points here is, so, she woke up in the morning with a really bad headache and said, I got to go to the bathroom and get some Tylenol. And so she stood up and he came over and was like, well, give me a hug. She gave him a hug and died in his arms.
Ooh.
Right?
Oh, my God.
And one of the things that Jolene would always tell me, and this is not like every conversation, but it was definitely a theme, is she'd always say, look up. Like, people are so into their own business and in their own life and what's going on and the priorities that people forget to just touch grass and look up.
Yeah. And
so when Jolene died, that came to the absolute forefront of my brain. And since then, it's kind of been a mantra, is always like, look up. There's a lot of amazing things out there that I don't speak for myself, that I don't pay attention to, or I didn't pay attention to, because I was too absorbed in my own nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's guilty of that.
The lesson here is look up.
Yeah. Wow. That's terrible. Yeah. I've had, friends die suddenly out of nowhere. And it's, part of it, I guess, is always the same thing, is that, like, you never know when, this day is your last day, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And take advantage of every day. And it's such a cliche to say live every day like it's your last. It's not really what I'm saying, but just be mindful of the fact that we're immortal for a limited time.
Yeah.
And people don't think about these things, and when they do happen, it's just like, and then you can reflect back on it and go, like, if I were to die today, what did I do today? What was yesterday like? What have I been like the last, year, 2 years, 10 years, whatever it is? And I think it can definitely alter your thinking patterns about, maybe to go outside, look up, touch grass,
Be nice, be kind, talk to people. There's, I've got a number of these stories I can share, but I'll just pick two quick ones. So I run, I walk every morning. As of today, year to date, I am at 1,308 miles that I have walked and ran this year.
Oh, God.
So I know every crack, undulation, asphalt irregularity. I know neighbors, where they work. I know which household eats way too much Little Caesars pizza. I know the whole thing. There's
one pizza's too many, but go ahead.
So there's one of the houses in the neighborhood has this old orange rusted out Corvette, and there's a little gray kitten or cat that's usually underneath of it. And whenever I see it, I'll start talking to it, and 9 times out of 10 it always walks straight over to me. One morning there's an elderly lady I was out in the yard, and she's wearing like big giant sunglasses, and I just figured, most old people wear those like Save Mark goggles, right? Glasses over the top of glasses.
Yeah.
And so I'm leaning over and I'm petting the kitty, and she's like, be careful, she's gonna get you. About a week later, I'm passing by, and I wave at her and I said good morning, and I noticed that she was looking off in kind of an odd direction, and she waved and said, hey, can you stop for a second? And she's like, I'm really sorry that I was staring at you really hard in a very, I'm sure, kind of a creepy way a couple days ago. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she's like, well, you and I think your wife. And I said, yes. You guys were walking past. She's like, she said, I'm 90% blind. My doctor always told me that I would know the day that the rest of my vision failed. And you're part of my daily routine in seeing you walk by. And that day I saw 2 of you, and I thought that moment was the moment that my vision was changing forever.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I'm glad to tell you today is not that day. And then as she, said, had some very kind words for me. And as I took off, I realized that could be her only interaction today. It might have been her only interaction that week, right? She's just by herself watering her flowers with her little gray cat.
Yeah.
So going back to that, look up, go outside, do something, talk to people.
Yeah.
Don't play on your phone.
Yeah. Well, that's also part of the problem too. I think everybody's coming to the conclusion that most stuff on the internet that, involves interacting with other people is 95% just toxic. And that can send you in a weird space if you're if that's the only interaction you have. I said something to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and this is, very loose theory of mine. I'm on the internet with some regularity, and, I find myself getting into commenting on stories and whatnot. And it's toxic, and just people, back and forth. Or you go on social media and you comment on some kind of, not like a friend story, but like one of those threads that pop up. And it's just, people just go after you and they're trashing you, and it's just all this sort of toxic behavior. And one of the things that I'd seen recently, and I shouldn't say recently, it's pretty much when, Donald Trump came into office, this sort of attitude from the left is, end of democracy, and he's going to become a dictator and take over this whole kind of thing. And then you have the people on the right, go at them, and it's just, you just read these threads, and it's just like, if you just read these threads, you would think that America is grabbing their guns, and it's just going to be this civil war that's about to go down, with people actually saying that, like, this is all headed towards civil war, that kind of thing. But then I'll go out, and I go out with some frequency. I go out, I don't hear anyone in the real world even talking about any of this stuff. And, the idea that, if you stay in that space long enough, you're going to start to believe that this is how everyone's thinking, there's this kind of thing going on. I just don't see it in the real world.
No, it's the epitome of alternate reality.
Yeah. And it's like, I made this comment to a friend of mine. I'm like, if somebody on the internet is saying, like, you better get ready, the civil war is going to happen, my response is, let me tell you, civil war is never going to happen, because you go out into the real world and tell everybody, grab your guns, we got to go fight the left or the right, whatever side you're on, right? That thing. Everybody would look at you and like, what? I'm sorry, I have a sociology class tomorrow at 8, so I don't know about this war thing you're talking about. Like, they really don't give a shit. They're not that interested. People on the internet in those forums or on social media might be, but yeah, that's where it stops and ends. Your civil war will happen on the internet. You guys will go to war on the internet, and I don't know how you declare a winner. I don't think you can, right? But yeah, I just don't think that people, if people are feeling a certain way and it's a negative way, I'm going to believe a lot of it has to do with what you're surrounding yourself with, and one way to get out of that space is to leave that space. And go out, unplug and go outside in the real world, go meet some people, and take some solace in the fact that 90% of people are pretty nice.
Is this where you insert your go and wiggle your toes on the mink rug while you're relaxing in the players club?
Well, I mean, again, I go out with some frequency, and I've met all kinds of great people. Some people have become good friends of mine, others that have just become really good acquaintances. I see them all the time. I'm not hanging out with them necessarily outside of those environments, but even just randomly meet somebody and have a great interaction with someone that I know I'm probably never going to see again. And yeah, it's all positive.
Those interactions make all of us better people.
Yeah,
even if you don't agree, it's probably better that you don't agree and you still learn.
Yeah, and I think in those kinds of conversations, that you have, even if they are, could be, even a political discussion, people just aren't the same in real life. And what you realize is that we're all pretty much coming from the same place. It's only on the internet where people are, I think, creating that massive divisiveness and this huge divide. And I just don't think it exists. And again, you could target it as, well, people don't care, they're ignorant, and they don't, they need to be more aware of what's happening around them, and this country's falling apart, or whatever they might say. And I'm just like, it's not, though. Everything you just said is not happening. Go walk outside. Tell me where you see it. Because if I went to my neighbor and said, hey, Bob, grab a gun, it's time to go to war, he'd look at me like I'm a fucking maniac.
Facts.
Now, if I went online and said the same thing, those people would be like, yeah, let's do it. We got to go. It's time to
ride or die, baby.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't see it in the real world. And I find that most people are really kind and fun. And, you come at somebody and, just saying hi to somebody, start a conversation. And again, it could be somebody, becomes a good friend of yours, or somebody you talk to for 20 minutes and never talk to again. And it's all positive, and it will adjust the way that you see things and how you feel, and you become a more positive person.
Well, I think one of the things too is like in just going outside and doing things, or maybe stepping outside of your comfort zone, you meet some amazing people. Some of the best friends that Cookie and I have in our life are people that we've met from completely random places. It's like, you like awesome food? We like awesome food. Do you like cats? We like cats. Do you like wine? We love wine. You should move your table next to our table. We should just have dinner together.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a true story with Matt and Denise 20 years ago. And there's other people. I was in a very serious wine group for a number of years. And by serious, it wasn't just, hanging out and drinking wine and telling stories. We did do that. But for me I had to get invited to the group. I had to provide an Excel spreadsheet of my collection to the group for review. I had to get a presentation on my areas of expertise to the group. I had to host a dinner at a restaurant and work with a chef to curate the menu to be part of the group. So it was a thing. It was I had to pay a fee to enter the group. It was really cool. But and that's the first time I've ever stepped outside of my own little circle to try and do something like that and challenge myself and to learn. And by stepping away from my keyboard and doing that, I met some really, really amazing people. And that was many years ago. And we ended up traveling Europe together. Some of the people we talk to every single week. So yeah, I think it's the reason of sharing that story is stepping outside of what you think is normal, and giving, raising the bar for yourself that, and it doesn't, you have to do it all the time, but to stretch your own limits and then interacting with people that are in kind of that new sphere. It's good for the heart, the mind, and the soul. Yeah.
Like I said, I at a point where I was like this sort of no new friends attitude, and I'm glad I changed that attitude, because normally I would meet somebody and even if they were nice, my first thought would be like, well, I don't really want to, get involved, and that was a stupid way to think. And today I'm just not like that. I meet somebody that's, they're super cool. I'm totally down to, get a number. Let's go out and go do something. And stepping out of that comfort zone of allowing new people around you. And more people should probably do that. And again, sometimes it can bite you in the ass. You can get around people that like, they seem like they're cool, whatever. You find out somewhere down the line, like this isn't something I want to be around. But yeah, you filter those people out.
Yeah.
And it's been super positive for me. And if I am walking around and I'm, in the last couple of years, last decade or so, and I feel that, people are looking at me going like, man, you're always such a great mood. You're positive. The energy's high. It's really because of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we can sum up part of the story and like you and I hanging out together. That was kind of like a Kevin Bacon 7 Degrees of Separation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I still remember the first time, I think you hosted here.
Yeah, my house.
With Love and the gang.
Yeah.
And I remember when after a great evening and Cookie and I left, and I was like, Sean is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, I totally need to hang out with this guy.
Right.
And I was like, he is such a great storyteller, and he's a good listener, and very thoughtful, very pragmatic. And so just in that, Cookie and I do, it was, when Love was like, let's go to my boyfriend's house. It was like, I don't know this fool. Why am I going?
Why am I going to this?
Why am I going over to this guy's house? But in that willingness, I mean, look at this. What are we at? Like, this is episode number 68, 69, maybe.
This would be 68. Yeah,
man.
I'm like losing count.
Yeah, and I think that's such and that kind of happenstance, fun night has turned into an awesome chapter in my own life story, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah, I think that I might be wrong about this, but I feel like that night you may have said something about a podcast just in passing. Like we should do a podcast. And I remember, whenever it was, if it was that night or whatever, the first time you brought up the idea, I was just like, man, fuck, I got to do no goddamn podcast with you, man. Get the fuck away from me.
But see, I had the tilted table, like that was already on my mind.
Oh yeah,
for years. But it was in any of the times that Cookie said like, hey, you should have do your tilted table podcast. It's like, well, I need to find the right person.
Yeah.
And it's funny that I found the perfect person in the place that I never would have gone to if I wasn't willing to do something that I was outside of my boundaries. Right.
Yeah. And I remember the the last time, the breaking point where I finally said, all right, yeah, let's do this. Sure. Was it that Dr. Dre concert thing we went to? Because I think that may have been our first episode.
It was.
Yeah, we were talking about that, right?
Yeah.
So it was just like, I think you brought it up again, and I'm just like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's fucking do it. Like, what do we got to lose? Let's go ahead and, so put that thing together, and so, yeah, no, it's awesome. Again, and I think if you would have been, 15 years ago, I would have probably met you and said, like, yeah, whatever, he seems like a nice dude, but again, I don't fuck him. Like, and then not fuck him like in a negative way, just like I don't need any, like,
I don't need more on my plate.
Yeah. And I think people, when they do that, I think they do that because they think it'll complicate their lives. Like, it's just another person I got to deal with. And again, when you actually say those words, it's just another person I got to deal with. You're already on that road to isolating yourself. And I think that's the worst attitude to have. And I understand the attitude because in the moment it seems to make sense. When you think about all the crap that you have to do day in and day out, the last thing I think a lot of people want is to add more shit to their plate that they think is going to complicate things, not realizing that, like, you only think that's going to complicate it. Really what it's going to do is going to uncomplicate it. I don't know if that's a word. I'm going to throw it out there. And it's going to actually make your life easier and more positive.
And fuller.
Yeah. And so, but I understand that mindset. And sometimes it's that, you got to dip your toes in the water the first time to sort of realize that and learn that. And I think I could go on, other stories that people I had met or someone tried to introduce me to. And my initial reaction is, man, I don't want to do all that. It's just more shit I got to, kind of do or deal with. And my life would have been drastically different if I wouldn't have said yes to that. Yeah. And that freak you out a little bit when you think about it. Like, wow, there's a whole part of my life, a major part of my life, best friends I have, that if I would have just said no to somebody about going to one thing and doing something with a group of people, that I would, none of those people would be in my life. And that's wild to think about.
Well, one of my absolute favorite movies is Jim Carrey in Yes Man.
Yep, classic.
And in the way that his life just got, leveled up 10 times on just something as simple as just saying yes. It doesn't mean you have to love it, or just having an open mind and open heart to what that possibility might be. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
And that's the movie that inspired me. The book as well. I did read the book. The book was, the movie and the book are two different things really, but that's what kind of inspired me. I remember telling Love one time, I'm like, I'm going to be yes man from now on. I'm going to say yes to everything. Yeah. And that's at least I don't know if that's where it started, but it was definitely during a time period where I was just like, okay, I got to get out of this funk and just, do something different.
Yeah. Adventure awaits, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, adventure awaits. Let's hit that dusty trail and head off into the sunset.
I have an important announcement for you, so stay tuned.
Yo, that's some next level shit, bruh. So you got me. Big deal.
The internet's answer to a question no one asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
Folks, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I'm Sean Kabibi.
And I am Joey Joe, the Cracky Man. Look up, touch grass, go outside, turn off your phone, talk to people you don't know. That's the rule of the day.
Yeah, go out and make some fucking friends. Jesus Christ.